One live broadcast, one split second of horror. That's all it took to turn routine demonstrations into the most shocking incidents ever captured on television. These aren't scripted dramas. They're real moments when experienced professionals suddenly found themselves in situations no one could have predicted. The cameras kept rolling. It was March 15th, 2016, when a routine safety demonstration turned into one of the most shocking workplace tragedies ever captured on live television. Graham Whitmore, a 52-year-old crane operator with 28 years of experience, was known throughout Portland's construction industry as the most reliable operator you could find. His colleagues at the mid-sized construction firm where he worked trusted him implicitly. If Graham was running the crane, everyone felt safe. The soft-spoken veteran had seen too many accidents over the years, which made him passionate about workplace safety education. That Tuesday morning, a local news crew arrived at the downtown construction site to film a segment about new safety regulations. Recent workplace accidents had prompted stricter guidelines, and Graham had volunteered to demonstrate proper crane operation procedures. He believed strongly that education could prevent the kind of tragedy that had claimed his colleague's life years earlier. The weather conditions seemed acceptable. Winds were gusting at 25 miles per hour, still within operational limits, according to standard guidelines. Graham's 150-ton mobile crane with a 180-foot boom was positioned to lift prefabricated concrete panels for a new office building. Site foreman Jordan Reeves, 45, who had worked alongside Graham for over a decade, supervised the demonstration while news reporter Aubrey Mitchell conducted interviews about the safety improvements. At 10:45 a.m., Graham began the lift sequence, raising a 4-ton concrete panel while cameras rolled. The construction crew, including flagman Tommy Taylor, a 34-year-old father of two known for his jokes that lightened the mood on site, watched as their most experienced operators showcased proper lifting techniques. Then, disaster struck. A sudden wind gust, briefly exceeding safe operating limits, caught the concrete panel mid-lift. Despite Graham's immediate corrective actions, the load began swinging violently. The momentum created dynamic forces that exceeded the crane's stability calculations, causing the outriggers on the windward side to lift from the ground. Graham attempted to lower the load quickly, but the swinging motion had created an unstable pendulum effect that couldn't be controlled. The massive crane began tipping forward, its 180-foot boom sweeping in a deadly arc across the construction site. Following protocol, Graham remained in the operator's cabin rather than attempting to jump. The crane tipped forward until the operator's cabin struck the ground with tremendous force. The impact was so violent that the reinforced steel frame crushed instantly. The safety glass shattered, and the seat's shock absorption system was completely overwhelmed. Emergency responders arrived within 6 minutes, but the cabin was so severely deformed that specialized extraction equipment was needed. Graham was found unconscious with massive internal injuries, severe trauma to his chest and head from the crushing forces. Paramedics worked for 8 minutes attempting resuscitation, but Graham was pronounced dead at the scene due to multiple crushing injuries and internal hemorrhaging. The very man who had dedicated his career to safety had become a victim of the unpredictable forces he had spent decades learning to control. The construction site was immediately shut down for 2 weeks during OSHA's investigation. The news footage, which captured every horrifying second, became crucial evidence that led to new wind speed protocols across the industry. Graham's family established a safety foundation in his name, ensuring that his final act, teaching others about crane safety, would continue saving lives long after his tragic death. It was August 7th, 2017, when a routine bridge inspection became a nightmare that would be captured on camera and haunt viewers forever. Claudia Reynolds, a 38-year-old structural engineer with 15 years of experience, was considered one of the Bay Area's most thorough bridge inspection specialists. Working for the Regional Transportation Authority, she had developed innovative inspection techniques that were being adopted statewide. Her colleagues respected her meticulous approach to safety assessments and her ability to explain complex engineering concepts in ways anyone could understand. That Monday morning, a documentary crew had arrived at the Harbor Point Suspension Bridge, a century-old span just north of San Francisco Bay, to film a segment about aging infrastructure. Producer Michael Torres, 41, had spent months researching experts for his piece about the challenges of maintaining century-old bridges, and Claudia was his first choice. Her reputation for thoroughness and her passion for infrastructure preservation made her perfect for the project. The inspection platform was a temporary structure suspended 180 feet beneath the bridge deck, designed to allow close examination of support cables and joints. Bridge Maintenance Supervisor Carl Peterson, 56, a 30-year veteran who knew every bolt and cable on the structure, oversaw the safety protocols. Weather conditions were ideal, clear skies with minimal wind, perfect for both the inspection work and filming. The platform had been inspected that morning and met all safety requirements for its 5,000-pound load capacity, secured by 4 suspension cables. At 11:30 a.m., Claudia was positioned on the platform, explaining stress fractures in the bridge's support cables to the documentary crew. She had performed hundreds of similar inspections throughout her career, always maintaining her reputation for safety and precision. Then, catastrophe struck without warning. One of the primary suspension cables contained an internal manufacturing flaw, a microscopic fracture deep within the steel core that routine visual inspections couldn't detect. Under normal load, that hidden weakness finally gave way. The platform immediately tilted at a 30-degree angle. Claudia grabbed the safety railing as the structure swayed violently. A second later, the sudden shift in weight caused another cable to give way. With only 2 lines still holding, the entire rig lurched further, its frame twisting under uneven tension until the deck section tore away from its frame. Although Claudia was wearing a safety harness, the catastrophic failure of the platform and its anchoring system resulted in her falling 180 feet toward the bay below. Claudia was thrown clear as the platform structure disintegrated, plunging toward the bay, a fall that lasted roughly 3.3 seconds. The impact with water at that height and velocity caused massive trauma equivalent to hitting concrete, resulting in immediate fatal injuries. Coast Guard rescue boats reached the scene within 8 minutes, but recovery efforts confirmed what everyone feared. Claudia had died instantly upon impact. The remaining platform section dangled precariously until emergency crews secured it, using helicopter-assisted cable removal and securing operations. The Harbor Point Bridge was closed for 72 hours while emergency inspections were conducted. Investigation revealed that the failed cable had a manufacturing defect dating back 6 months, leading to a nationwide recall of similar equipment. Footage recovered from the crew's cameras helped investigators confirm the sequence of the platform's failure, while metallurgical analysis identified the precise fracture point in the defective cable. The combined evidence led to new inspection protocols for temporary work platforms. Claudia's family used settlement proceeds to fund engineering scholarships for women, ensuring her legacy would inspire future generations, while new safety regulations protected countless other engineers. It was November 22, 2015, when an investigative news report turned into a deadly inferno that would shock viewers across the nation. Preston Hale, a 29-year-old safety inspector with a background in chemistry, had recently been promoted after identifying several safety violations at industrial facilities throughout Detroit. Working for a local warehouse that stored commercial chemicals and industrial supplies, Preston was known for his dedication to workplace safety and his belief that proper procedures could prevent disasters. That Tuesday afternoon, investigative reporter Amanda Walsh, 33, arrived at the warehouse with her crew. She had been working on a story about improper chemical storage practices for 3 months, following complaints from environmental groups. Preston had agreed to speak anonymously about safety concerns, believing that public exposure would force necessary improvements across the industry. To avoid alerting management, Preston arranged to meet the crew at the far end of the storage area, away from the main office where supervisors were stationed. The warehouse contained industrial chemicals, including paint thinners, cleaning solvents, and agricultural supplies stored in large drums. Warehouse manager David Kim, 48, was unaware of the news crew's presence and had been struggling with storage space issues. Cameraman Steve Wilson, despite his 12 years of experience, had little familiarity with chemical safety zones or industrial hazard signage. Unknown to everyone, the building's electrical system had been experiencing intermittent problems for months. A faulty junction box that maintenance had been meaning to repair had been sparking intermittently due to corroded connections. At 2:15 p.m., Preston was showing the news crew examples of improperly stored chemicals in one section of the warehouse, explaining safety violations he had documented. Meanwhile, 200 feet away, the faulty electrical junction box had been sparking all morning. A paint thinner drum stored in a poorly ventilated corner near the electrical box had developed a slow leak over the past week, allowing flammable vapors to build up in that confined section of the warehouse. At 2:18 p.m., the electrical box finally failed completely, creating sustained arcing that ignited the concentrated chemical vapors in its immediate vicinity. The initial fire spread rapidly through that section, creating intense heat that caused multiple chemical drums to rupture and explode. Preston and the news crew, hearing the explosion, ran toward the exit. Preston, slightly behind the others, turned back to guide Amanda when the secondary blast tore through the aisle. The fireball engulfed his position, inflicting severe burns as he inhaled superheated gases that instantly damaged his respiratory system. The others, closer to the loading bay, were shielded by stacked drums that absorbed most of the blast. The explosion's force and debris caused additional trauma, including multiple fractures and internal injuries as he was thrown against warehouse equipment. Preston collapsed immediately, his respiratory system severely compromised by the inhalation of toxic gases. Emergency responders arrived within 7 minutes, but structural damage and ongoing chemical fires prevented immediate access. Preston was extracted after 12 minutes, but had already succumbed to respiratory failure from inhaling superheated gases and toxic chemicals. The warehouse fire burned for 6 hours before being contained, requiring hazardous materials specialists. Environmental cleanup took 4 months due to contamination from released chemicals. Investigation revealed the electrical failure was unrelated to the news crew's presence and had been a long-standing maintenance issue. Preston's death led to new state regulations requiring the immediate repair of electrical hazards in facilities storing volatile chemicals. His family established a chemical safety awareness program for industrial workers, ensuring Preston's final act of exposing safety violations would continue protecting others. It was June 14, 2018, when a live television health segment became a tragic medical emergency that would leave viewers stunned and heartbroken. Vivian Carter, a 45-year-old emergency room nurse with 20 years of experience at a regional hospital in Phoenix, was known throughout the medical community for her quick thinking and expertise in trauma care. Her colleagues respected her ability to remain calm under pressure and her dedication to patient care, often working double shifts to help understaffed departments. That Thursday morning show host Rebecca Martinez, 37, had specifically requested Vivian for a live television segment about emergency preparedness and first aid techniques during National Safety Month. The broadcast was taking place in the hospital's emergency department to promote community preparedness for medical emergencies. For several weeks, Vivian had been experiencing occasional chest discomfort and fatigue, but she attributed these symptoms to work stress and the long shifts that had become routine in her demanding career. Her colleagues had noticed she seemed tired and had mentioned she should see a cardiologist. But like many healthcare workers, she had postponed a planned doctor's appointment, prioritizing her patients' needs over her own health concerns. The live segment was scheduled to demonstrate basic first aid techniques, including wound care, choking response, and when to call 911. Dr. James Patterson, 52, the hospital's emergency department director, was scheduled to join but was delayed due to an emergency. Camera crew veteran Tim Garcia was known for his sensitivity in healthcare settings. At 8:42 a.m. during the live broadcast, Vivian was demonstrating how to properly clean and bandage a wound while explaining when injuries require professional medical attention. She had been feeling increasingly uncomfortable for the past 30 minutes with chest tightness and left arm pain, but she recognized these as potential heart attack symptoms she had been ignoring for weeks. Ironically, while explaining the importance of not delaying medical care for serious symptoms, Vivian experienced severe chest pain and shortness of breath. She attempted to continue the demonstration briefly, not wanting to disrupt the live broadcast, but her speech became labored and she began sweating profusely as the symptoms intensified. Within 90 seconds, Vivian collapsed while reaching for demonstration supplies, experiencing a heart attack caused by a coronary artery blockage that had been developing over months. The very nurse who had saved countless lives was now fighting for her own. Hospital staff immediately began emergency resuscitation procedures, while cameras continued rolling, creating a real medical emergency during a safety demonstration. Dr. Patterson, who had just arrived, took over resuscitation efforts and ordered immediate preparation for emergency cardiac catheterization. Despite advanced life support measures including defibrillation and emergency medications, Vivian went into cardiac arrest twice during the 15-minute resuscitation attempt. The medical team worked extensively to restore circulation, but the heart attack had caused significant damage to her heart muscle. She was pronounced dead at 9:12 a.m. after all resuscitation efforts failed, with the entire medical emergency having been broadcast live to thousands of viewers. The hospital immediately implemented counseling services for staff and viewers who witnessed the tragedy. Investigation revealed that Vivian had been experiencing classic heart attack warning signs for weeks, but had delayed seeking care due to work commitments. The tragic broadcast led to increased awareness about recognizing heart attack symptoms and the importance of healthcare workers receiving urgent care. Vivian's family established the Vivian Carter Memorial Fund to provide cardiac screening for emergency department staff, ensuring her legacy would protect the healers who dedicate their lives to saving others. It was April 3rd, 2017, when a master craftsman's dedication to preserving history became the final chapter of his own story. Captured in horrifying detail by documentary cameras, Miles Harrington, a 61-year-old master craftsman specializing in historic building restoration, had spent over 35 years preserving America's architectural heritage. He owned a small restoration company and was considered one of the Southeast's leading experts in 19th century masonry and stonework techniques. Miles was known for his insistence on authenticity, using traditional methods and materials whenever possible. That Monday afternoon in Charleston's historic downtown district, documentary director Karen Phillips, 44, had arrived with her crew to film a piece about preserving America's historic architecture and the skilled artisans who maintain these structures. She had spent 2 years researching craftsmen like Miles for this project about disappearing trades. The project involved restoring the facade of a 150-year-old courthouse, focusing on intricate stonework that required specialized climbing and precision work. Miles' apprentice, Danny Walsh, 26, had been learning restoration techniques for 3 years and considered Miles a father figure. Building owner Margaret Stevens, 58, had invested her life savings in the restoration. The scaffolding system was a combination of traditional and modern components, chosen to accommodate the building's unique architectural features. Although the scaffolding had been inspected that morning and met safety codes, hidden metal fatigue in older components went undetected, a limitation of visual inspections that investigators would later cite as a contributing factor in the collapse. At 1:30 p.m., Miles was working on the building's third-story facade, carefully chiseling away damaged mortar from between original stones, while cameras documented his techniques. The scaffolding platform was positioned 35 feet above the sidewalk, with Miles wearing a safety harness connected to the building's anchor points. Unknown to anyone, vibrations from restoration work over several days had loosened critical connection bolts in the scaffolding's primary support structure, while Miles concentrated on a particularly challenging section of stonework, explaining his techniques to the documentary crew below. The scaffolding began to shift slightly. The movement was initially minimal, but as Miles adjusted his position to reach a difficult area, the accumulated stress caused a primary support joint to fail catastrophically. The scaffolding section collapsed suddenly, with Miles falling 35 feet. His safety harness line became entangled in the collapsing metal framework, causing the rope to wrap around scaffolding components during the fall. The entangled safety line created severe internal trauma as it jerked tight mid-fall, then snapped, allowing Miles to strike the sidewalk with full impact. The scaffolding debris landed around and partially on top of him, causing additional crushing injuries to his legs and torso. Emergency services arrived within 5 minutes, but extraction required careful removal of heavy scaffolding components. Miles remained conscious initially. Speaking to paramedics, but went into traumatic shock due to massive internal bleeding and multiple fractures. He lost consciousness after 12 minutes and died at the scene despite aggressive resuscitation efforts. The restoration project was halted while investigations determined that metal fatigue in older scaffolding components had contributed to the failure. New regulations were implemented requiring more frequent inspections of scaffolding systems. The documentary footage provided crucial evidence and led to industry-wide changes in scaffolding safety protocols for historic restoration projects. Miles's restoration company was continued by his apprentice, Danny, who established a safety foundation in Miles's memory. The courthouse restoration was eventually completed using Miles's original plans, with a memorial plaque honoring his contribution. The master craftsman, who had dedicated his life to preserving the past, had ensured that future artisans would work more safely. It was September 19th, 2016, when a routine chemistry demonstration turned into a deadly explosion captured on live educational television, shocking viewers and forever changing laboratory safety protocols. Eleanor Briggs, a 34-year-old chemistry instructor at a community college in Austin, had earned her PhD in organic chemistry and dedicated 8 years to teaching. She was passionate about making science accessible, developing innovative methods that made chemistry engaging for non-science majors. Her colleagues knew her for meticulous safety procedures and her ability to explain complex concepts. That Monday morning, educational producer Janet Jones, 39, arrived with her crew to film a segment about community colleges in science education. Eleanor volunteered to demonstrate basic chemical reactions, showing how hands-on learning helps students understand scientific principles. The laboratory was well-equipped but housed in a 1970s building with aging ventilation. Student assistant Maria Williams, 20, a chemistry major who worked with Eleanor for 2 semesters, admired her teaching approach. College Dean Roberta Davis, 51, was present to discuss science education funding. Eleanor had never experienced a serious laboratory incident, making her perfect for demonstrating safe practices. The demonstration involved reactions commonly used in introductory courses. At 10:25 a.m., Eleanor was demonstrating the reaction between hydrogen peroxide and potassium permanganate to show oxidation principles while cameras recorded. She had performed this demonstration hundreds of times, always following strict safety protocols. Unknown to Eleanor, the hydrogen peroxide had been mislabeled during a recent stockroom reorganization. The 10% laboratory-grade solution had been decanted into containers identical to those used for the 3% educational-grade version, both clear, unmarked squeeze bottles, differentiated only by a small printed label. The new stock had been shelved in the same position as the usual classroom supply. Trusting the system she'd used for years, Eleanor retrieved the bottle from its usual spot without realizing the error. To the eye, there was no visible difference, no color, no odor, no viscosity change, and she had no reason to suspect a mismatch. When Eleanor added potassium permanganate to what she believed was dilute hydrogen peroxide, the reaction occurred with significantly more violence than the expected gentle fizzing. The beaker shattered immediately, sending hot chemical solution and glass fragments onto Eleanor's face and upper body. The more concentrated reaction generated intense heat and oxygen gas rapidly, creating a vigorous reaction that splashed burning solution across Eleanor's lab coat and exposed skin. Chemical burns formed immediately on her face, neck, and hands from the concentrated hydrogen peroxide, while glass shards caused multiple lacerations. Eleanor's safety shower activated within seconds, but the 10% hydrogen peroxide solution had already caused significant chemical burns that penetrated into tissue, particularly around her eyes, and exposed skin. She immediately inhaled some of the reaction vapors and steam, causing respiratory irritation and airway damage. Emergency services arrived within 8 minutes. Eleanor had lost consciousness due to the chemical burns affecting her respiratory system and the shock from the unexpected reaction severity. The instructor dedicated to teaching safe practices had become a victim of a supply chain error. Eleanor was transported to a regional burn center, where she died 6 hours later from complications related to chemical burns and respiratory damage from inhaling the reaction vapors. The college suspended all chemistry activities pending a complete review of storage procedures. Investigation revealed the mislabeling occurred when 10% laboratory-grade hydrogen peroxide was incorrectly placed in containers marked for 3% educational grade solution during routine inventory reorganization. The educational footage became part of nationwide safety training for educators, emphasizing chemical verification procedures. Eleanor's family established a laboratory safety scholarship fund, and new regulations required multiple verification steps for demonstrations, ensuring her tragic death would prevent similar accidents. Thanks for watching. Want to watch more? Click on your screen now